Item 7A, resolution of the City of Emeryville Redevelopment Agency creating an ad hoc panel of city staff, community, and business members for selection of the South Bayfront pedestrian bicycle bridge design team. Mr. O'Keefe.
So in this instance, we have a group of consultants that will be submitting proposals to the City Council, acting as the redevelopment agency, in order to perform design work for the South Bayfront pedestrian bridge, which you recently had a study session on to restart this project. And in this instance, because it does involve design, which was the distinction that we were making between this and the prior item, we are recommending that you have an expanded selection committee that includes not only staff, but includes community members as well. And we've done a similar thing when we've been involved in design projects such as selecting art projects. So we're recommending a committee of 6 that consists of 3 staff members from Public Works, Economic Development, and Planning departments, and also 3 citizens to include business representatives. You might want to think about Novartis and Madison Marquette, since they will be affected by the bridge where it lands on either side of the tracks, and one additional. So if that is an appropriate size of committee and makeup of the committee, we would then advertise the vacancies of the outside members. We would bring that back to you at the next agenda, and we would ask you or recommend that the council adopt a resolution that would appoint them, that allows us to get around this issue of conflict of interest where people are within 500 feet of the facility that they're helping to plan. That's my staff report.
Councilmember Bukowski.
Yeah, I'd like to recommend a change in the composition. I'd like to add perhaps 2 council members to that mix. I know I spent 8 years following the design of the East Span and all of those issues, and I would even like to serve on that committee with that background and experience. There are a lot of issues in choosing a bridge, and it is a very complicated process, and so I think I would bring some benefit to the committee.
Any other comments? Go ahead, Ruth.
Is there a reason why staff isn't suggesting that a council member serve on the committee?
Well, I guess there's an alternative way of doing this. If you wanted to assign the task to a council committee, you could do that. And then you'd have 2 council members and staff members. Or you could add them to this group.
Well, it's always been the practice of having 2 council members on these committees, because then when you want to advance it forward, you have much more likelihood of going forward with it than no council members on it.
Well, yeah, I guess it just depends on the issue. In the case of art design, I don't think that we've had council members involved in those selection groups, but it's it's up to you.
Councilmember Fricke.
The comment I had when I looked at this is that it would be valuable, I think, to get the input of someone from Novartis and someone from Madison Marquette. Now, I'm not sure whether that should be in this formal setting or this informal, but yet we're designating them. So that was my first thought. The second thing is that I had a question about the process. If you this has 6 people, it sounds like this is in flux. But to figure out, okay, are we going to have one person? I think that it makes sense to have one person from the planning department, one from Public Works, one from Economic Development and Housing. But do they vote? These are all voting people. Do they then recommend a choice to the city council? How does that work? And then the last thing I would say is that if you're going to have, the way it's here, it says 2 community members. Well, it says community member representing residents, and then Ped-Bike interests, I guess what I would say is if you're going to have 3 staff people, then I would expect at least 3, if not more, residents of the city, because it seems like this selection should be very much coming from residents. So maybe have 3 or 4 residents and then a representative from these 2 sides, Novartis and Bay Street, and then the staff people. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
So for a total number of people
I don't-
on the committee of what?
Well, it would be 3 staff people. It would be the 2 main
Novartis
commercial
and-
interests, that's
okay.
5, and then at least 3 residents, so that would be 8.
2 council members, maybe?
Well,
Oh, and Ken wants 2 council members, so that would be 10.
I have a little different take on this.
Yes.
You bring up, one of the things is, all of these meetings will be open to the public. Is that correct, Michael? Or Patrick, whoever wants to answer that?
No, not necessarily. These are presentations that are going to be made by, people, design teams that submit pursuant to this RFP. So it would be a private meeting. It won't be a public meeting. And those presentations, proposals would be rated by the panel, and they would make a recommendation to the city council of, okay, we've received, these presentations or proposals, and this is the one we're recommending.
I'm a little uncomfortable with, this is a iconic project for this city. It's been in the works for a long time. People all over the city are interested in it. I'm concerned about not having the
It doesn't
deliberative-
have to be, if you want it to be open and public, you can, but
Right.
it's not a meeting that's required to be open and public, was my point. So, but if the council wants to advertise it and have them open and anybody can come, certainly you can do that. But if you also want to keep it a little bit under control and keep the presentations private and to the panel, then you can do that as well.
Sharon, when you make your decisions on public art and the people come and make their presentations, they were open public meetings, weren't they?
They are. They're public meetings. But
They're open public meetings.
yeah, we don't necessarily
I mean,
notice them
it's
everywhere,
not a cast
whatever.
of
But
thousands, but
Right.
they're noticed, and if anyone has an interest, they can come.
they're not.
They're-
But
they're not
and they're also
noticed.
not. They don't engage in
No,
conversation
there's
with
no
the
public,
representatives.
yeah, okay.
Also,
They are
just
not noticed, though.
that's what I just said. They're not.
Right.
We don't notice them. They are. But one thing also, while you're doing this, just as you have 5 people on the city council, our selection panels always have an odd number.
That's
so you
right.
keep coming up, just by chance, you keep coming up with even numbers here. So it's something to think about. Just.
Mayor, I have a question, and I'm sorry because we're kind of bouncing around here a bit, but I guess I have a threshold question I should have tried to get in earlier. I don't understand this 500,000-foot thing, how we can make that go away with a resolution, given all the struggle that we've had over all that.
We did it previously. I provided the council a memo, boy, this is probably early March of this
Right.
past year.
The follow-up to the...
Right, where you can actually, if you create a committee and you want the committee to represent certain interests that you so then designate, then because you want somebody who lives within 500 feet, let's say, to be on that panel because in fact they live near the structure that's going to be built. The provisions in the code there, they allow you to so designate individual interests that you want to have represented on the panel, and therefore they don't have a conflict.
Okay. Now, and I remember that process, Mike. I thought there were certain findings we had to make, but that must be confusing that with some other process.
No.
So that's fine.
But it does, one of the things which would happen here is that even with the public art selection panels now, they do, the composition, the individuals do come back to council. That's how,
Right.
that's how you approve, and if someone has an issue, then they could bring it up then
Well,
before.
the same thing
Yeah.
will happen here.
It-
This will come
absolutely.
back to the
Yeah.
council. If I could finish my line of thought before I totally forget it. My suggestion is that you have a 7-member ad hoc group staffed by the Planning Department, the Public Works Department, and Economic Development. And the 7 members would be 2 from business, and that'd be Novartis and Bay Street. Then the 2 council members, that's 4, and then 3 citizens.
Here,
And
here.
then staff will not be put in the position of voting. They
I-
will give their wise input.
I think
support
that,
Wait,
Everybody
no,
support
No, no,
that?
hold- I want to get the count again. I'm sorry, Nora, the 3 from the staff,
they're
Will
not,
be staff.
they're,
right,
yeah.
and then 2,
Members of the committee taking care
oh,
But they're not
oh,
voting,
they're not going to vote.
voting members.
That's
Okay.
right,
So
that's
of the
right.
voting members, we'll have 2 council members, 2 business members. Okay,
And
that's
3
4.
citizens.
And 3
So we got an odd number. That's good.
And I would suggest Councilmember Bukowski, because he has spent a lot of time on bridges. Is there any other member of the council who's interested in this?
I'm interested.
All right. Mr. Fricke and Mr. Bukowski, I'm making that motion for that composition.
Yeah.
Can
Oh, I have a second?
can we just
Second.
hone in a little bit on the qualification that you want to see for the residents?
I think we should publish it, and that people should be, you mean in terms
Well, I
of
mean,
being close
if you
by?
want, if
Do
you
we
want
want
to designate that
architects
you
or
want, well, no, I'm talking about
engineers or
if they
what?
live, if you want to designate that you want somebody who in fact lives within 500 feet of the site, that then, that's a
If
category
we don't
that-
do that, then people in the artist co-op or people in,
If you
on
just say
45th
three, three
Yeah.
residences and somebody from the co-op who lives within
Well,
500
I
Can I make
think,
a
I think we
suggestion?
should have
That'll
an
be
east side
could be a
resident and a
problem.
west side resident as
You
a
know what,
minimum.
you know what might make more sense? If we got 3 members from the Public Art Committee, because that committee is, they're about picking art and selection and design, and maybe that they would be more qualified than an average resident, so.
It's not-
No, this is a whole different thing.
Okay.
Can I ask
It's
a
not
question?
art.
The 500 feet, is that the threshold?
Yeah.
It seems to me that if you go 500 feet from the location that is pretty much, it has to be in that location because the footing has already been poured on the west side.
1,000 feet.
Well, Mike
Well,
just said
I-
it's
We're
500.
saying 1,000 here on the
Well,
resolution.
The question is, does someone have to, what is the threshold for not participating in a vote? And I think that the amount is 500 feet.
Yeah, the
right?
conflict rules are 500.
Okay. I
And
think
and
that
we
it's,
can't get past that with this.
well, we can, but
Yes, we
here's
can.
my question.
That's
Here's
why
my
I
question.
want to designate it.
Right.
Right. Here's my question. I actually think that it's more than 500 feet to any resident. I mean, certainly the artist co-op is more than 500 feet from this bridge, and even Emeryville Village is more than 500 feet, I think. So I don't think that
But
if you...
Bay Street isn't.
Bay Street is not. So if it was a Bay Street resident, we would have to designate a Bay Street resident. But everything on the east side, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I just don't think that we have anyone living that close because of the distance from the bridge to
You can-
Horton. I mean, that's already 200 feet right there.
Possibly, yeah.
Point's well taken,
Well,
John.
So you
Can I-
could
can I
expand
ask-
your radius.
Can I ask this question? Is there any reason we can't make the designation open-ended? Can we just say we can have representatives down to 0? I mean, can't we pass that and then put the word out there that we've got 3 openings
Well,
and see who applies?
No, Mike's point.
And then we'll pick, and then we can pick them that live right next door, or we can pick them that live further away, depending
Mike's-
upon who's there.
Mike's point
Well, I
is-
mean, if you want to designate, say, that they live within 2,500 feet,
No,
or I'm not sure what you're saying, that just
No.
any city resident.
in other
No, I
words,
think what Dick is saying is let's just leave it open-ended, and the answer to your question, Dick, is that if you think that it would be valuable to have somebody who lives at Bay Street, that there has to be a slot on, that the resolution has to say, we are reserving a slot for this, for a person near Bay Street, because we think that it's important to have somebody near Bay Street, and and that person is going to represent a certain interest, and therefore the 500-foot rule is not going to apply.
But what I'm saying is, can't that be worded in an iffy way? Can it say that we may designate somebody within the 500 feet, or we may not? I mean, we don't know who's going to apply. I'm trying to keep it open to get the, 3 people that really strongly care about this and want to participate and are going to come to all the meetings. And that may be somebody that lives right next door to it, and it may be
Right.
somebody from the Triangle. I mean, I don't know.
Or somebody from the north side.
Yeah.
Who's going to ride down the Greenway.
Yeah. So
What
is
do we
it,
do?
so I guess,
We can certainly do that. Now, the person living on the north side isn't going to pose any of the issues
Right.
that...
True.
so what I'm asking is just, can we word this resolution in a way that gives us the flexibility to appoint somebody that's within, that's at
Sure, we
ground
can-
zero?
I think we can, we can phrase it such that, we want 3 persons who, are city residents, and then when they come back, if they are within 500 feet, then you'd modify your resolution to say, yes, we want, in fact.
That's what
All
I'd
right.
suggest, just to give us the
We
most
got the
flexibility.
concept?
Yeah.
Do
We're
we,
just trying to,
do we want to approve
kill
this
a step.
resolution? You want to bring one back next meeting?
we can bring back the resolution once we get the, the response from the applications. Yeah.
Okay. Somebody make a motion on this?
So moved.
Second.
Without exception? Okay,
Yeah.
very good.
I guess I'll just, I'm not accepting here, but I guess I just want to go on record to say that I do have some reservations about the process and how we're going about this. So I just want to register that. But I'm game to let the process unfold.
Very good.